Hello and welcome to Just Africa, where we dive deep into the trends shaping our world. Now, in today's fast-paced, interconnected world, leadership is no longer defined solely by vision or charisma. It is defined by adaptability, efficiency, and ability to harness technology for public and private good. Digital administration is not just technical upgrade, it's a leadership philosophy. On one hand, the call for transparency, agility, inclusion, and smart decision-making backed by data, from e-governance to AI-driven public services, from digital identity systems to automated workflows in corporate organization. We are witnessing a paradigm shift in how leaders lead and how institutions serve. But with innovations comes responsibility. Yes, the responsibility to protect data, to bridge the digital divide, and to train the workforce, and to ensure that no one is left behind in the race for digital transformation. I am Olumide Sokoya. Of course, I'm not the only one. I have my co-host, Swift Aderinto. How you doing?
Good morning, Olumide. I love your look. You look good. How you doing?
I'm good. Always looking good. Always
That's for the ladies. Anyway, good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Africa. And of course, welcome. We're talking about something very interesting and something that is cool. You know the story about, I don't want to call brands. There was a particular phone that you used to ping with. And then they told them that they needed to move to Android. And they were like, nah. And at the end of the day, they got sold. The idea is, if you do not move, there's a paradigm shift. Yes. You always have to look for the next thing because it will catch up, it will sneak up on you. That's the way it is. Our leaders right now, the next thing is they say data is the new gold. It's not life again. Yes. And data is the new gold. So getting the numbers, putting it together, because the numbers don't lie. Algorithms don't lie. Yes. They are straightforward. You see them. And in governance right now, we have gotten to the point where, especially in Africa, we don't trust our leaders. We feel like when a leader says A, it means B. And looking at countries like Singapore that have moved to be highly digital, we look at their shipping, it takes 3 days to clear because you're not talking to anybody. You are putting in cards, you are putting in your data, this is what I've brought into the country. They are just checking it online. Human beings, you don't need to greet anybody. You don't need to know anybody.
You need to grease palms.
And that is the challenge we have in Nigeria, from the educational sector to the political to financing, even to as small as loans. Food, drink, you must greet somebody, you must know Tani Babae, you know what's your name. But when the system becomes revolutionized, that all we are looking at is data, a strategy that is just following from data, then at this point, I think Africa will move forward. So digital innovation is the next step, especially for leadership, if we want to grow Africa. That's the truth.
Well said. Now, on Just Africa today, we will explore questions like how can digital tools enhance accountability, service delivery? What does ethical leadership look like in a digital-first world? And how do we ensure innovations uplift all, not just a few? As we begin today's session, let us remember that leadership is in a digital era, and it's not about replacing human element. It's about amplifying it. It's about using innovation to serve people better, faster, and more fairly. So we're going on a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring in our guest. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Just Africa. Our topic for today is digital administration, driving innovation at the core of leadership. And our guest is Mr. Samuel Aiyedun. I love that name. He is a professional business analyst, project manager, tech, and leadership enthusiast, passionate about business growth, strategy, development, and process improvement. Good morning and welcome to Just Africa.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here.
So glad to have you.
Thank you.
So let's jump right into it.
All right.
How would you define digital leadership in today's governance and administration?
Okay, so if I'm to put it in context, digital leadership, it's basically an organization or any government parastatal deploying digital tools for business transformation, leveraging on technology.
Okay.
Now, to make it more simple, everybody uses Facebook. But by the time you start using Facebook to make money, to drive impact, then you are different in the way you are doing it. So digital transformation is the first keyword, right, before leveraging on technology. Now, the other part to it is, what are the objectives? Number one, it must be seamless, it must be fair, it should bring about some sort of transparency, and then it must be sustainable. So that's the best way I could put it.
So if I may ask, looking
Yes.
at Africa, which country would you say has fully upgraded to 100% digital leadership?
Okay, so we're in Nigeria, right?
Yes,
And I must be a fan of the country.
Yes.
But I think that Rwanda is doing a great job.
Rwanda.
Yes, Rwanda is doing a great job. And of recent, I've started following Burkina Faso on the basis of what is happening there. And I noticed that somebody, I've forgotten the name right now, but I think the country has started producing electric cars too, which is something that is fantastic.
Really? Also,
Well, yes, we know, but I think over there, the electric cars, there is an innovation for electric cars, and there is one that uses hydrogen, so hydro-powered electric cars.
Electric cars.
Yeah, so all of that. So I think Rwanda is piloting the way in terms of digital innovation, and other countries are following up. Oh, okay, not South Africa too,
South Africa.
Yeah. So, but Nigeria, I think we're improving, and it can be better.
Okay, so coming from education, because the first question I'm going to ask you is the last JAM, there was a lot of problems, and the problems came from the fact that the government is trying to digitalize, computerize JAM. And so I'm going to ask you, since you are one of the stakeholders in the country when it comes to innovation and leadership, and you're an enthusiast, what do you think the government can do differently? Because I was on social media and I saw a lot of people saying, oh, the registrar should resign. I said, no, that's not the problem. The head of the computer room should resign. Oh, I just want to find out, because I want to take it back home. What do you think the government can do, differently, looking at JAM, using JAM as a case study, for example, in Nigeria?
So first, let me take us back to some basics of business analysis in the perspective of what we call stakeholder engagement. What I've seen by experience really is whenever you are about to deploy a technological advanced tool, people that don't want it to work have something they are gaining from it.
Yes.
I hope you get the point. So to deploy such things, it is imperative that at the beginning, you have agreeable stakeholders. It is when you don't have people who align with the vision that you begin to have, such happenings, which is very bad, by the way, because of the people who are victimized by it.
Yes.
Secondly, in practice, whenever you're about to deploy any technological tool, there is an exercise that is being called red teaming. What it simply does is this. So let's take, I am Samuel, and you are here. You and I were talking about how to deploy this. But then it is very okay for us, or it is very necessary for us that at some point we take the devil's advocates to that initiative, sit at the back and say, hey, this thing we are deploying, how can it go south?
Yes.
For the lack of a better word. When we think of all of those things, it will help us, it will harm us on how to put necessary risk management processes in place. So that's pretty much. So talking about government, I really feel that every time we're about to deploy something that will pay the masses, the first issue we get wrong is the wrong stakeholders, because when we don't have everybody aligning, then that's where you get to see some of those things,
So what brings me to another question.
Yes.
What qualities now do you think a leader, a stakeholder, whoever, must possess to effectively drive digital transformation?
Thank you very much. I think the first one will be passion. Passion for problem solving. Why did I say that? Let me take you back to some years when I was working in the UK. So I worked in an automotive sector in the UK, right? And that was when the whole talk about electric cars, were just coming up. Now, one of the senior managers there knew I had passion for cars. So every time he was coming to pick me from the train station, he would say there is a new car coming in, would you like to join? And I'll jump at it.
Yes.
Now, there was this car, Renault Kadja. Mind you, don't forget I said I like cars. Renault Kadja. So they brought in Renault Kadja to the parking lot. And the guy, knowing that the African guy that I am, he wanted to surprise me. Then he said, this car will find the slots to park by itself. I said, no, it can't
It's
be.
impossible.
To cut my long story short, every time the car found an empty parking space, it would give a signal.
Wow.
Now, to make it worse, the car actually parked by. I saw the driver took his hands off, and then the car was moving. The African in me, in my mind, started doing blood of Jesus. But that's just by the side.
Yes.
It brings me to the next point, openness.
Okay.
If you don't have that openness to new things, you can't embrace something new.
Yes.
So problem solving is one, openness, curiosity. Actually, curiosity will drive problem solving, right? And then the last one is strategy and execution. It's all good to talk about these lofty goals like building castles in the sky, but without execution, we won't get to where we are going to.
Yes. Now, you said openness.
Yes, please.
Yes.
A thought came to my mind.
Yes.
Now, so do you believe that digital innovation, it's all about technology alone or just the mind asset?
I think it starts from the mind. Yeah. Whatever the man can conceive, it can bring to reality, right? So take, for example, my example would be a bit awkward, but, it's something that is still applicable. A long time ago, before now, wearing native and canvas
Was weird.
yes,
Was
we
weird.
seem off, You look like a lunatic or something. But somebody did it, and now it has become a trend. Do you get what I'm saying? So if you are of the generation that still maintains that closed mindset, you wouldn't, embrace that initiative here. So I think it starts from the mind. Whatever the mind can conceive, with proper efforts in place and passionate people, you can bring to reality.
Okay. So talking about bringing to reality, a friend of mine that works in one of the biggest hospitals, federal-owned hospital in Nigeria, talked about the fact that when a lot of people relocate abroad, now there's digital pensioning. So once your salary is being paid from the Abuja office, it's deducted. Your pension is deducted, housing, whatever, and your main income comes to you. Now, people relocated. They resigned. But they are in America, the UK, they are working, they are doctors, they are nurses. They are still getting their pension alerts. Meaning that someone in Nigeria has refused to alert the federal government that this person is no more our staff. So federal government has 500 staff. 300 or 200 have left the country. And so we are crying that we're understaffed in government hospitals. I'm sorry to have this. My question has a long story. And then I want to say something. Do you think that Africans, our empathy, sympathy, because my friend abroad was saying, if he reports it officially, somebody will lose their job. And these are people he has worked with. Some of them too are doctors, because they're all splitting this your salary that is coming in. But you are getting your pension payments. And another fear is, if I come back to Nigeria, and it is recorded that I have reported, it means that I will not be able to work here because you can never tell who this person's relative is. So my question is, do you think that sentiments, fear of who, because Africans, we are our brother's keeper, that's the truth, compared to Yoruba people. Do you think this is one of the things that hinders innovation and deployment of technology to its full effect in Africa?
Okay, so thank you. Like I said initially, right, what I've seen by experience is when you have hindrances to the successful deployment of anything that will improve our lives, go look from the back curtain, you'll see that some people are actually benefiting from it.
Yes.
What is happening in the health sector, like you mentioned, is particularly concerning, because just of recent, I went to the hospital, and with a relative of mine, and for some reason, the person they brought to come speak to us was not so professional, and I couldn't take that risk. But again, yes, we are our brother's keepers, but if we have the humane mindset, right, to know that whatever we do, being our brother's keeper, will affect many lives negatively, then I think somebody who is in his right senses, a leader, right, should try their possible best to make sure that they don't encourage such. So, your friend in abroad who is working and still receiving pension, in the spirit of integrity, like our parents taught us, if I were him, I would say, look, I don't need this again, right? I mean, it can go, anybody can benefit from it. I'm already working, you know, I'm earning what I'm earning here. So being the brother's keeper doesn't mean that you should, how will I put it, cause harm to humanity, you know, and that's the best way I can put it, you know. I don't know if I answered your question rightly.
Okay, so my follow-up question will be,
Yeah.
do you think government should put in place strict measures? So, for example, you're abroad, you have been earning a pension, you refuse to report it, there's a clamp down for you. You are in Nigeria, you have been eating this money, there's a clamp down. So, do you think government is not putting enough measures because you have deployed this technology? You have spent billions.
Yes.
We all know that if it's supposed to be 1,000 naira, by the time the kickbacks come in, it's 10,000 naira. You have spent billions deploying this technology. Do you think government is not doing enough to protect this technology?
I would not say the government is not doing enough because
Okay.
if you happen to meet some of the people who have their seats, you know, at the political side of things, you would get to know that they are really working hard. What I would say really is maybe there are not enough checks and balances. So compliance is faulty, right? You've deployed a system today, and by all logical standard, you are supposed to be checkmating on the effectiveness of that system. That's what business analysts do anyway. When we assist you to deploy a business, we come back 6 months, 3 months periodically to say, hey, how is this thing doing? Is this still meeting the business case and all that? But when there are no checks and balances, right? When compliance is not taken like life, then many things can just creep in. So we are doing enough, but I just think we need to do more in terms of the compliance processes we put in place and the checks and balances.
All right, thank you very much. Now, so my question, before I ask my question, if you look at certain ministries in the government, they are going into the digital era. I mean, one is the Nigerian Railway Corporation.
Yes.
I remember before you have to get to the railway station as early as 6 and wait till probably 7, and the queue is long and you have to wait till they pay, and that is if you know the train does not leave before that time. But now it's gone digital because I also accessed the train weekend and last weekend, and now so you can sit at the comfort of your house, book your ticket, and everything goes smooth. And all you have to do is just go to the counter and everything, show them your barcode and scan it, and that's it. You know, also when Tunji Ojo came in, he cleared the backlog of passports, and now you can also go online and everything.
And just,
You know, so my question is, how can digital leaders ensure that innovation is all-inclusive and does not, you know, segregate between, or does not, there's no gap between the urban and rural, the rich and poor, the connected or disconnected?
Okay, thank you very much. So, unfortunately for me, I've never had to board a train in Nigeria. So, I can't. Yeah, all right. Maybe one of these days I would. I can't relate. But I remember going to France, and then one of the things that astonished me back then was when they say a train is arriving in 1 minute, it actually comes as at 1 minute. You know what I'm saying? So speaking of digital inclusion, I really think that what we can do is not to ostracize those who you consider illiterate. Because in UK, for example, when you go to train stations, in as much as it is a self-help, right? You can read, you can write, you can easily assist yourself. There are certain personnel in place that are there to assist people who do not have that advantage of literacy to run the processes themselves. So I think that is what we need also in Nigeria. And they are not judgmental people. They are not the kind of people that will say, you cannot read, don't disturb me. You know, this Nigerian attitude, you cannot read, don't disturb me. Rather, they are humble people, rather persuasive in persona. They come to you, they even say, how can I be of help? You see on their shirt, how can I help you, you know? So by so doing, I mean, if you teach, no matter how illiterate somebody is, if you make the person go through a particular process 1, 2, 3, 5 times, learning curve, the theory of learning curve states that as they keep repeating a particular process, the learning increases. And next time, you probably wouldn't need to help them again. So I think that's the best way to have a complete 360-degree digital inclusion for any deployment at all.
Through the learning curve. All right, so I wanted to ask you, we talked about culture. We can't take culture away from Africa.
Exactly.
And now we are looking at digital inclusion. So we have royal fathers, we have kings, we have our tradition. These things, we hold them dearly.
Yes, please.
And because of how dear these things are to us, every time you talk about technology, you talk about advancements, like you said, they are, I won't call them devils. They are these people that it's like a stopping board in Africa.
Yeah.
My question is, how do you think that the innovations we are making, we can include our culture, being particular to our culture? Because I tell you, culture is life. And the truth is, we cannot throw away culture. So, for example, my cousin traveled to the UK years ago, and she realized that when you want to board a bus, there are elderly people that are retired at 60-something. If you are sitting down, even in the UK, and those people are standing, it's mandatory for you to get up so that they can sit. Now we're looking at, there's innovation, this is the next step. We're looking at trains, we're looking at BRTs. I noticed that some days ago, there was this very old man, because I bought the BRT, it's more convenient. And the man was standing, and everybody was sitting. And I wanted to get up, and then the guy in front of me was like, please come and sit. And I tapped him, and I said, amazing, that kind of thing. What can we do in Africa to include our culture so that the older people, they don't feel left out? Not just for BRTs, we're talking about banking, apps, where you stand. What do you think it's important for us?
Okay, so I would say it starts with orientation, right? Speaking about culture, which is particularly paramount, no matter whatever solution you're trying to deploy. I also remember, when I was in the UK, and every time you see somebody who wants to bypass the queue, at the ATM, and then they will ask you, are you all right? Because that's what we do, that's what we are. But right here in Nigeria, it's like, if you do that, it's like, you're a boss. You get what I'm saying, But it starts from culture, and then not neglecting the senior citizens, Like you said, I don't think we can throw away our culture whatsoever. This scenario you painted about the boss is particularly concerning because I still have respect for my elders, no matter how civilized I see myself, right? So I think that as part of the orientation that comes in advance of the deployment, there should be a clause for consideration of senior citizens. By so doing, everybody will be aware that when you see your daddy's mate, when you see your mommy's mate on a bus, or having it difficult to use a particular technology, you can help out to say, okay, how can I assist you without trying to take advantage of them, So I think that's the best. So it starts from orientation, really, without neglecting our culture as Africans.
All right, just one more question before on a break. Earlier on, she mentioned JAM, CBT, and all that. So in your own opinion, where do you think the fault came from? Do you think the students were not well equipped, coming from wherever schools they were? Maybe they were not well equipped as to what and what, because we had a case of a lady, she answered a question and she was done, and she clicked something she thought that would take her to the next question, but instead they ended the whole
process.
And she was dumbfounded and all that. So how do we fix this? Yes, JAM registrar, he has apologized, and people are even calling for his resignation and all that, but where do you think the core problem emanated from?
So there are certain processes to deploying any technological tool, right, that would better the life of anybody. And if you miss any of those processes, you are doing yourself more harm than good. About 3 years ago, I was fortunate to be a part of a tech startup that has now become an operational business, And one of the things I learned, one of the things the opportunity afforded me is what we call MVP, minimum viable product. What does that simply mean? It means that before you go live with any of your product, before you give people the confidence to say this thing is live, you can now start using it, from your MVP, you would have targeted a particular section of people to put it to what you can call a trial use,
Yes.
right? Whatever experience you get from there, it will feed back into the bigger picture of when that deployment is going to go live. So I don't know if the jump issue, for the lack of a better word again, if the jump issue had gone through the normal processes for what it takes to deploy something as wonderful as that. Secondly, we are also fond of trying to deploy something without putting the necessary infrastructure in place. So take, for example, I hear in certain countries, right, AI is a big thing. They have humanoids, they have robots. As much as those things have some risky perspective to it, but you can only talk well about creating a humanoid in a country where light is 24 hours.
Yes.
Do you get what I'm saying? So if you want to deploy any of these things, and it is solely dependent on a major infrastructure, the onus is on us to make sure that that infrastructure is well equipped, it is sustainable, it can help to support whatever you are deploying. So two things. I wouldn't know because I'm not part of the team that deployed. I wouldn't know if they went through the normal processes. Was there an MVP before it went live to give confidence that yes, this thing is working? And then secondly, the surrounding infrastructures that would support it, were they okay? So those are just my concerns.
So you haven't answered the question. You have done a good job, but I'm going to catch you.
Okay.
Who do you think is to blame? Are we blaming JAM? Are we blaming students? Are we blaming parents? Are we blaming me?
So
Yes.
you will blame us here. Yes, I mean, I would say, do you know why?
Yes.
Do you know why? You see, there's something called pain point analysis.
Okay.
Before you try to deploy any solution whatsoever. Pain point analysis circles back to stakeholder engagement again. It's not just asking questions from the founder perspective. It's also asking questions from the user perspective, You should have seen some of these Google Sheets coming to you to say, we will not take much of your time, 2-3 minutes, The insights you give, at that stage is really paramount to the success of any technological tool. Do you get what I'm saying? Yes. So if they had shared such a thing with students, and students have given their insights to say, this is what we expect to see in this, and somebody took consideration of that, maybe that thing wouldn't have happened. But more often than not, what we have is at the echelon of control, people say, let's just give it to them, however we give it, they would take it, So I think it's a fault of everybody, without mentioning anybody, because there are certain processes to deploying any technological tool.
Thank you very much. It's Just Africa, and we're still discussing digital administration. We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue with the program. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Just Africa. We're still looking at digital leadership, and we have Samuel Aiyedun. He is a professional business analyst, project manager, tech leadership enthusiastic, passionate about business growth, strategy development, and process improvement. So now we are going into the AI world. So my question now is, looking at organizations, businesses, and all that, how can organizations ensure that with the rise of automation and AI, people are not left behind, in terms of job and skills?
Okay, thank you very much. I asked that question some 8-9 years ago, right? When I was working in the automotive sector in the UK. That was when the rave about self-driving cars were coming into place, and I remember writing a research then, and one of my final recommendations were AI is coming. Yes, it will take people's jobs, but people need to also equip themselves on the necessary skills, because central to the use of AI is a human factor, right? So sensitization is key, right? And again, like I said, openness of mind is key. I'm doing a personal study right now on the inherent risks of AI based on some of the recent news, right? So I really think that as much as the risks are existent, it doesn't give us an excuse not to prepare for it. Otherwise, like you said, we would be left out, and we don't want to be left out. So AI is a game changer in organizational administration, in digital administration. The risks are there, but I think that we must be deliberate about developing our skills, right? Because again, it is the skills you develop that you can manage its risk. If you don't know about something, you can't be talking about the risk. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So we must be intentional about developing the risk. And I must say that the Lagos State government is doing a great job, you know, in terms of AI and all of that. I know there is currently a tech hub, you know, something like that, that is teaching people AI for free, right? They started like 3 months ago. I think right now they should be rounding up. 2021 ending thereabouts, I was at the Lagos Tech Fest that happened at Aderinto Hotel, and it was amazing. It was encouraging to see His Excellency Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. You know, he came there, you know, had a fantastic speech about technology and how we should harness it, how we should embrace it for the betterness of the state, and I think in turn on a bigger level, the country.
So if I may ask a follow-up question, do you think dependence or
Yes.
over-dependence on AI, do you see any risk, demerits, any disadvantages?
Yes.
Well, yes, there are.
Okay.
And look, I'm a sensitive person, right? And you don't want to throw a blind eye to certain things that you see.
Yes.
If you are a fan of what we call root cause analysis, if you go down history sometimes, you would see that some of the things we have right now, they have already been projected in 1 or 2 movies. I'll give you an example. 2014 iRobot. If you have seen the movie, Will Smith. Last year, Elon Musk was talking about the new set of humanoid that will be coming to your home just exactly the way it is, you know. Other movies like Upgrade, whereby AI took over, the popular one being Terminator, you know, 1, 2, 3, you know how it was, you know.
Yes.
Avengers Age of Ultron, you know. So those things, they clearly depict some of the risks that are inherent in AI. Now, also, I think 2 years ago, if I'm not wrong, or last year, there was a news that was making the rounds about AI copying people's voices, popular journalists' voices.
It's some stations do
Thank
it now.
you, you know. So, and for some reason, the real journalists came out and said, I'm sorry, that's not me. Do you get what I'm saying? About 2 weeks ago or thereabout in China, they were assembling a particular humanoid, and then it went berserk and started hurting the people in there. So to answer the question straight, you know, I would really think, there are some things I'm thinking in my mind right now, but we don't want to say, you know, for the purpose of risk management.
Okay.
But I really think that it is high time that we also not only enjoy the benefits that these things afford us, we should also start preparing for the risk that is inherent in it. And how better can you put that? If the grandfather, one of the popular pioneers of AI, he's coming out in the news, an ex-Google staff, I cannot remember his name, is coming out in the news to say this thing we are deploying has some risk that is detrimental to the future. So it tells you something that you need to actually start preparing for it. So I think people should learn the skills, but at the same time, they should learn, you know, some other ways on how to manage its risk in case we have such an issue like what happened in China where the humanoid went berserk, you know, and started hurting people. Particularly for me, because I'm very conscious of my data and anywhere my name goes to. So I'm sorry, I don't use ChatGPT, you know, yeah. But what I did was to learn how to write. I took a writing course 3 years ago. So I learned how to write so that when I write, I don't have any issue in the future whereby something is quoting me and I did not say. To cap this all up, I think about 2-3 years ago, if you guys followed the news, there was a popular post that was going on about a particular country asking for people to surrender their facial identity so that they can use to create robots that will be working maybe at customer service centers in some high-classy hotels. So imagine you live here and you go to Singapore, or somebody, your relatives, and goes to Singapore and says, the customer service there, I saw you there, you're like, no, where? So they put some incentive to it, get $100,000. You know, Nigerians, very funny. Somebody say, even this my face, what does it earned me? So yeah, the risks are there, but I also think that whilst we're enjoying the benefit it affords, you know, a strategic person, an analytical person would also consider the risk that may be associated with such good things.
I like the fact you talked about risk because I don't want anybody using my face. All right, so talking about something else, you know, it shows that, statistics shows that about 40 plus of the GDP of Nigeria is brought in by small businesses, SMEs. And so when we're talking about governance, we're talking about technology, innovation, digital implementation, we cannot take away the SMEs, we cannot take away the small businesses. What do you think is key for government when it comes to privatization, partnerships with smaller businesses? Because I know they too, they are trying, but they are limited. Yes.
Okay, so fortunately for me, you know, I work with many small and medium, you know, scale enterprises. I advise some of them who happen to be my friends on how they can scale their business and all of that. And just like you rightly said, there is not enough support, you know, from the government. I really think that if the government can strengthen its PPP initiative, that is called private public partnership, right? Some of these businesses will really scale. I know a lot of friends who are considered small in their business, but they are doing great things. You know, if they have that platform, you know, I mean, how best can you also talk about it? You know, WhatsApp CEOs.
Yes.
You know them on WhatsApp. Buy what I'm selling today. Don't take my market elsewhere. You know. Some of them have not even opened any location for a shop or so, and they are doing fantastic. From their room, they are sending things out, you know. So imagine the potentials of what they could do if they have the government support, maybe through enhanced trainings, maybe through grants, you know, and all of those things, you know. So I think the government has a lot more to do. But then on the side of the entrepreneurs, you also need to be aware of some of these policies that exist so that you can't take advantage of them, you know. So if I'm a WhatsApp CEO and I don't know that the government used to give grants, or my state used to give grants for people, the indigenes of the state, to support their businesses, I mean, so I'm just playing in the dark, you get what I'm saying? So I think PPP, right, is crucial, and with that, I think everybody will be good, you know, in terms of business. Small business will become big, the country will be better, you know,
All right, so my own final question. If you could give one piece of advice to tech startup, organization, a leader who is starting their digital journey, what would it be?
Okay, so first I would say find a problem to solve, because it all starts from problem solving. Be passionate about the problem, because what we've seen really is people going into tech because they heard that tech is making money. Do you understand? But then by the time they dabbled into it, for some reason, they were victimized. So find a problem to solve, you know. No matter how senseless you think the problem is, just find a problem to solve, you know. Then find people of like minds, you understand, you know, to join you in that journey. So I cannot want to improve your iPad, you know, if working with you, if I don't think that you are passionate about improving your iPad. And again, it may not only even be a problem-solving thing. It could also be a continuous improvement something. You know the movie, the Wakanda movie, you know, sorry, I'm going into movies. There is a particular line I picked up there. When T'Challa, you know, first got into the village, and his sister came and said, give me those tech tools, you know. He said, what do you need those tech tools for? He said, they're already working. What the sister's response was, how many times have I told you that the fact that something is working doesn't mean it doesn't need improvement? So it simply tells us that even if you can't find a problem to solve, if there is something that is in existence already, you can make attempts to improve it, So by so doing, any digital leader will scale, will find relevance, and then at the other side, we would also impact other lives. Because if your problem-solving agenda becomes a success, do you know the exponential number of people that will benefit from it, So those are the things I think was it. Find a problem to solve. If not a problem, find something to improve, Be very passionate about it, because when you're passionate about something, you will see naysayers. It is your passion that will drive you to it. Then find like minds, go into stakeholder engagement, And then maybe, because we're Africans, pray to God.
No,
Pray to God.
The grace factor is key for
pray
me.
to God.
Grace,
So be passionate about it, Go all the way out until it becomes a success. Don't give up, So that's it.
I like it.
All right. So now, okay, I said I had a final question, but let me add this one.
Okay.
If you look at Nigeria today now, and some of the digital transformations that has happened, you would say yes, we are moving forward.
Yes.
There was a time BVN came in.
Yes.
Then insecurity came in. Yes. Then we were told that the national identity, NIMC would come in and we'll have an NIN card, which would be used to, trace some of these activities of the bandits and whatnot, and be able to, get them and all that. But we've not really seen that effectiveness of this NIN. Also, she made mention of Singapore, whereby you can just sit at the comfort at your home, import something and clear it and everything. I'm looking at that also, because if you look at, to clear something in Nigeria today, right now, I don't even know how many days it will take. She said 3 months, right?
Between 2 weeks to 3 months.
That's if you know somebody again.
So do you see a future whereby everything can be digitalized? I'm talking you clearing your goods. I'm talking you, speaking to someone in China. You, making payment, getting to Nigeria, going online, on customs, wherever, immigration, doing everything, making a necessary payment, and it even being delivered to your doorstep. Do you see what would it take? Do you think it's the mindset? Do you think the people are accepting this digital innovation? Or do you think it's just another political play?
So like I said at the onset of this interview, right, I said, in my experience, what I've seen is when you have certain inhibitions, right, towards something good from coming live, is because there are 1 or 2 persons, that is taking advantage of that particular process. I don't think it is impossible for us as Nigerians to have all of these seamless processes, leveraging on digital technology. What I think we should be careful about is the mindset of the people behind it. We need to get to the proper persons, who are pioneering these technological tools. Because without that, come on. Of recent, I read that the CBN has digitized BVN for people in diaspora. That's a fantastic news. I think just yesterday too, again, I could say the NNPC to now, they now have a app, I think NR app or something, for you going to buy fuel. Funny enough, I know a particular oil and gas company that was doing that before, but these are the little strides we are making, in terms of improvement, in terms of embracing culture. So if we can make this progress, no matter how minuscule you think they are, then it tells us that we can make it bigger, right? There are potentials to make it better. There are potentials to improve. But the multi-million-dollar question will be, by the time he gets big, who are the people that will be managing it? So at the center of every process, or technological deployment, it's people. If you don't get the right people behind it, you are possibly just embarking on a journey to failure, So I don't think it's impossible for us to get it. If other African countries can do it, we are the giant of Africa, right? I think we should be able to do that too. But it's just a matter of the people, the mindset of the people, the ethics, right, that they maintain. Are they really in support of that thing, or are they just looking out as scavengers to it, to take something out of it? So that's it.
All right, so talking about education, I think this should be my own last question. A friend of mine was telling me about his daughter in Canada. She's in the university.
Okay.
And there's a rule that if you are given a 10 paper and you copy.
A 10 paper, you say?
Yes,
okay.
right. And you copy from a ChatGPT.
Yeah.
You get, you lose a semester.
Yeah.
Because they want them to read. You said something about you took a reading course.
Yeah.
Now in Nigeria, my friend's 9-year-old was telling her that, look, mommy, they can't catch me. Says he takes it from ChatGPT, then he puts it on Metal AI. And so...
To tweak it again.
How is his teacher going? So when the teacher checks ChatGPT, it's not the same. And if they check Metal AI, they're different.
Yes.
And I was like, So my question is, the future leaders of tomorrow, these are the young ones. We are looking at, deploying innovative technology so that we are on pari passu with our European counterparts. But what do you think the government can do? Because a lot of people are complaining that it's killing the educational sector.
Exactly.
You give a child an assignment, the child goes online. It's good to have, internet services. But right now, it's looking like these children are not doing a lot.
Yeah.
Someone telling me of America that they had to take out the analog clock because 12-year-old children cannot read the time. Because of digital, and they had to put in a digital clock. We don't want Nigeria to go that far.
Exactly, yeah.
What do you think government can do? As much as it's important to bring in AI and all these tools, what do you think government can do to checkmate this, especially for young people that are still reading and are in school?
Again, we'll take it back to the concept of risk management, again. If you have taken a personal study on China and the way they are growing, you will see that that's a country that was deliberate about growing. But if you check the news of recent, China is also planning, if they have not already done it, to stop the use of AI in the country, particularly for students. Now, about 2-3 weeks ago, I was fortunate to be at Ife, the great Ife University, to speak to future leaders, about digital innovation. And it was quite encouraging, to see that one of the students there promised me. So this was how it went. So I told them all of the things, all of the transformative projects I have been involved in, in my career line. And I said, there are still more things to do. And I mentioned, I'm hoping that one day in this country, somebody will help us digitize the voting system. And somebody raised up their hand to say, he's passionate about that. So I looked at the person well, and I said, in the future, I'll be looking out for you. So to put it in context, really, technology is good. Every good thing has a bad side.
Yes.
Do you get what I'm saying? We don't want our children to be lazy because we did not take the lazy route to passing our exams. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think that there should be some sort of control, right? Some sort of restrictions to certain age groups as to the use of AI. Otherwise, it will just create laziness. It will drain down the cognitive abilities, of our kids. So I think that in as much as we want to embrace it again, we should put certain restrictions in place so that we are not enjoying the benefit as elders, but destroying the lives of the young leaders, coming up. So that's what I would think. Just let's copy China, China is doing that already.
All right, many thanks, Mr. Samuel.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
This is the final place to land, and we really enjoyed your contributions.
Thank
of
you
course,
very
we
much.
would also bring you again, to shed more light on maybe some other topic.
Thank you
So
very much.
this is where we will round up today. We've been talking about digital administration on Just Africa. Many thanks for watching, and if you have enjoyed the show, please like, comment, and share. Follow us on our social media pages at Souk News Television. From here on, I am Olumide Sokoya.
And of course, my name is Swift Aderinto. Like I always say, buy Africa, think Africa, and be African.